I died for the first time at 7:42 p.m. The driver never saw me crossing the street, eyes fixed on his phone as his SUV barreled through the intersection. There was a brief moment, less than a heartbeat, where I registered the headlights washing over me, the squeal of brakes applied too late, then impact, my body folding around the chrome grille, bones shattering, consciousness winking out. I opened my eyes to the sound of my alarm clock, 6:30 a.m., same as always. For several minutes, I lay in bed, heart hammering against my ribs. Just a nightmare. The most vivid nightmare I'd ever experienced, but nothing more. I could still feel the phantom pain of impact, but it was already fading, dissolving like morning mist. I shuffled through my morning routine, shower, coffee, toast, telling myself the dream would be forgotten by lunch. Outside, the October air had a bite to it, leaves skittering across my path as I walked to work. Everything normal, everything as it should be, until I passed the corner market and saw the date on the newspaper stand, Tuesday, October 12th. The same day I'd just lived, the same day I'd died. Coincidence, I told myself. My sleeping mind had simply incorporated the correct date. Work passed in a fog. I kept waiting for some divergence, some proof that this was a new day. But everything played out with eerie familiarity. The same irritating email from my boss, the same lunch special at the deli, even the same conversation with the barista at the coffee shop. By evening, a leaden dread had settled in my stomach. I altered my route home, avoiding the intersection where the SUV had struck me. Instead, I detoured through Riverside Park, taking the scenic path along the water. That's where the mugger found me, alone on the darkened path. I handed over my wallet, my watch, my phone. But it wasn't enough. The knife slid between my ribs with sickening ease. As I collapsed onto the damp earth, blood bubbling from my lips, my last thought was, this can't be happening again. 6:30 a.m., the alarm's electronic chirp jerked me awake. Tuesday, October 12th. Again. By the fifth iteration, I'd established the rules of my prison. Each day reset precisely at the moment of my death. I retained all memories from previous loops. No one else seemed aware of the repetition. The world rewound like clockwork while I alone remembered. I tried everything. I called in sick to work and barricaded myself in my apartment. Result, a grease fire in the kitchen, smoke inhalation, death. I drove out of the city, seeking escape on the open highway. Result, a blown tire at 80 miles per hour, a concrete divider, death. I checked myself into the hospital psychiatric ward, begging them to sedate me, to keep me safe just until midnight. Result, an allergic reaction to the medication, anaphylactic shock, death. Death always found me before the day could end, and with each death, the loop reset. Maybe I'm in purgatory, I told the bartender during loop 12, having abandoned any pretense of normalcy. He nodded sympathetically, assuming I was working through some philosophical conundrum rather than describing my actual existence. "What did you do that was so bad?" he asked, refreshing my whiskey. That question haunted me through the next several loops. Was this punishment? I wasn't a saint, but I couldn't recall any sin that warranted this eternal torment. I'd never killed anyone, never committed any true atrocity. I was just ordinary, unremarkable in my virtues and my vices. On loop 17, I began keeping a journal, documenting each death in clinical detail: electrocution, falling, drowning, stabbing, shooting, poisoning. The universe displayed remarkable creativity in ending my existence. Some deaths were quick and merciful. Others, like the industrial accident on loop 22, still made me wake screaming, phantom pain lingering for hours. By loop 30, I'd developed a routine: wake up, document the previous death, attempt to survive the day through a new strategy, die, repeat. I began to wonder if survival was even the goal. Maybe this was some cosmic test, some lesson I needed to learn. I devoted several loops to making amends for past transgressions, apologizing to ex-girlfriends, reconnecting with estranged family, performing random acts of kindness for strangers. Still I died. Still the loop continued. On loop 43, something changed. It was subtle at first. A black cat crossing my path where no cat had been before. My neighbor greeting me with a different phrase than she'd used in previous loops. Small divergences, but in a world of perfect repetition, they stood out like screams in a silent room. Then I saw him. Tall and gaunt, dressed in an impeccable charcoal suit despite the autumn chill. He stood across the street from my apartment building, motionless amid the bustle of morning commuters, watching me with unblinking dark eyes. When our gazes met, he smiled, a thin, knowing curve of lips that sent ice water cascading down my spine. I froze, coffee cups slipping from my fingers to shatter on the sidewalk. In the split second I glanced down at the mess, he vanished, not walking away, not obscured by passing traffic, simply gone, as if he'd never existed. That day, death came in the form of a heart attack as I climbed the stairs to my apartment. As consciousness faded, I glimpsed him again, standing at the top of the stairwell, still wearing that terrible smile. "Not yet," he said, voice like gravel over glass. "We're just getting started." Loop 44 began with a new certainty. I was not alone in my hell. "Who are you?" I demanded when I spotted him again, this time lurking outside my office building during lunch hour. His smile widened, revealing teeth too numerous and too sharp. "Think of me as an interested observer." "What do you want from me?" "Want?" He tilted his head, the movement too fluid, too extreme for normal anatomy. "I simply appreciate your predicament. It's rare to find someone so persistent." He knew about the loops. He remembered, just as I did. "How do I break the cycle?" I asked, desperation cracking my voice. "How do I make it stop?" "Stop?" His laughter was like breaking glass. "Why would you want that?" "Each new death is a gift, an experience most only receive once. You should be grateful." Before I could respond, he melted away into the crowd, his final words hanging in the air. "See you next loop, Michael." I never told him my name. He began appearing more frequently after that, a silent observer to my repeated demise. Sometimes he would stand at a distance, watching with those obsidian eyes. Other times, he would be there in my final moments, leaning close as if savoring my fear, my pain, my confusion. "Is this hell?" I asked him once, blood pooling beneath me from a mugging gone wrong. The same mugging I'd experienced in Loop 2, though I'd tried a different path home. "Hell is unimaginative," he replied, crouching beside me. "This is cultivation." "Of what?" His finger traced the blood spreading across the concrete. "Fear is an exquisite vintage. It matures with repetition, develops notes of despair, hopelessness, rage. Ordinary fear, the kind that comes with a single death, is merely the grape on the vine." He gestured to encompass me, the loop, his presence. "This is the fermentation process." I tried to crawl away, but my strength was fading with my heartbeat. "You're feeding on me?" His smile split wider than any human mouth should allow. "Not yet, but soon you'll be perfectly aged." I stopped trying to survive. What was the point? Death would find me regardless, and the man in the charcoal suit, as I'd come to call him, would be there to witness it, collecting my terror like precious wine. Instead, I began searching for him. If he could move freely through my looped day, perhaps he held the key to my escape, or at least answers to why this was happening. He proved elusive. Sometimes I'd glimpse him in reflections, or in the periphery of my vision, but when I gave chase, he was never there. Other days, he seemed to deliberately taunt me, standing openly in crowds but vanishing the moment I approached. On loop 67, I found him feeding. I'd taken to exploring parts of the city I normally avoided, mapping the boundaries of my prison. In a derelict warehouse by the old shipyards, I heard weeping, soft, frightened sobs that raised the hair on my arms. The man in the charcoal suit knelt before a young woman bound to a support beam. Her eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down her face as he leaned in close, not touching her, simply breathing deeply, as if inhaling her fear. "Stop!" I shouted, rushing forward. He turned to me, annoyance flashing across his inhumanly perfect features. "You're interrupting dinner." "Let her go," I demanded, though I had no weapon, no leverage. "Or what?" His smile returned, crueler than before. "You'll die trying to stop me? How novel." He was right, of course. Even if I died protecting her, the day would reset. She would be back in his clutches, with no memory of my failed rescue, and I would be no closer to ending my torment. But something inside me, some last ember of humanity, of decency, refused to walk away. I charged him. What happened next defied physics, biology, sanity. His form shifted, bones cracking and realigning, skin rippling like disturbed water. His jaw unhinged, revealing row upon row of needle teeth, descending into a throat of absolute darkness. I died screaming as he tore me apart, my blood painting the warehouse floor. The last thing I heard was the woman's terrified wailing. Loop 68. The alarm's familiar chirp. But something was different. When I staggered to the bathroom and flicked on the light, my reflection showed no signs of the previous death's trauma. But my eyes had changed. The irises were darker, the pupils slightly elongated. I blinked, and for a moment I swore I saw something move beneath my skin. Throughout the day, strange sensations crawled through me. Hunger unlike any I'd known before, a heightened awareness of the heartbeats around me, of the subtle sense of adrenaline and sweat when someone experienced a moment of stress or fear. He's changing me, I realized with mounting horror. With each death, each loop, I'm becoming more like him. That night, as I waited for death to find me, I huddled in my apartment, lights off, doors locked, windows shuttered. Not to keep death out, that was impossible, but to keep myself in, to protect others from what I might become. When the man in the charcoal suit stepped out of my closet, simply there, as if he'd always been, I wasn't surprised. "Now you understand," he said, voice almost gentle. "The beauty of the process. You're turning me into whatever you are." He spread his hands, a teacher pleased with a student's progress. "We are connoisseurs of fear, Michael. Harvesters of terror. But to truly appreciate the vintage, one must first experience it personally. Your repeated deaths, your growing dread, these are merely your apprenticeship." "I won't become like you," I said, but even to my ears the protest sounded hollow. "You already are." He gestured to the darkened window. "Why don't you go outside? Find someone alone and frightened? See how their fear calls to you now." I could feel it, the pull, the hunger, the desire to feed on someone else's terror rather than experience my own. "How many loops?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How many deaths before I fully change?" 100 is traditional." His smile gleamed in the darkness. "You're more than halfway there." He stepped closer, his form rippling again, humanity sloughing off like an ill-fitting coat. "But tonight, I think you're ready for a glimpse of your inheritance." What happened next cannot be described in human language. He opened himself, not just his mouth but his entire being, and showed me what waited on the other side of my 100th death. The true form, the true hunger, the eternal existence of feeding on fear across countless dimensions. I'm not ashamed to say I went mad. Temporary insanity was the only sane response. When I came back to myself, dawn was breaking. I'd survived the night. For the first time, I'd made it past midnight into October 13th. My reprieve was brief. As sunlight crept across my apartment floor, the man in the charcoal suit materialized one final time. "The transformation has begun," he said. "Now we reset the count. 100 more deaths, 100 more loops. But this time you'll be hunting alongside me, learning the craft." "No," I pleaded, though I could feel the change working through me, hunger gnawing at my insides. "Please, no more." His smile was almost compassionate. "We all resist at first, but by the end, you'll thank me for this gift." He reached out with hands that were no longer hands, and oblivion took me. 6:30 a.m., the alarm's electronic chirp. Tuesday, October 12th, loop 69. I'm writing this journal entry quickly, before the hunger fully wakes, before I feel the pull toward the warehouse by the shipyards, where I know a young woman will be waiting. My teeth ache. My skin feels too tight. When I glance in the mirror, something else looks back. I don't know if anyone will ever read these words, if the loop ever truly breaks. But if you're reading this, if you're trapped in your own personal hell of repetition, know that escape may be possible, but the price might be your humanity. And if you ever see a man in a charcoal suit, watching you with unblinking eyes and a knowing smile, run, die, do whatever it takes to avoid what I'm becoming. Because I'm starting to think that repeating Tuesday, October 12th isn't my prison, it's my cocoon. And what emerges when the 100th death comes will no longer be human at all. I would like to thank you for listening to my story. If you liked it, please give it a like. And if you want to hear more, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload a new tale for you.